Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller film named Night of Something Strange. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The story begins in a morgue, where two new bodies have just been brought in. One is the corpse of a voluptuous woman. A necrophiliac named Mort catches wind of this and sneaks into the morgue to get busy with the female corpse. In his lust, he fails to notice the tag on her toe, which indicates that she not only had an STD but also likely died from radiation exposure, with some of her cells still active. It isn't until he gets home and goes to bed that Mort's body starts to show problems. He lies in bed, clutching his groin and howling in pain. His wife, wondering what the hell is going on, enters the room to find Mort standing on the bed, urinating. When he turns around, he is mutated into a zombie. Before she can even run, Mort infects her with the virus. The virus takes time to take effect, and Mort's wife fights back, unaware that he is now a zombie. She grabs a knife from the kitchen and stabs Mort in the heart. Unfortunately, it doesn't kill him. As she moves in to check on him, he makes a swift counterattack, and she collapses to the floor, incapacitated. Mort then heads outside to find more food, only to be immediately sent flying by a speeding pickup truck. Even after being mangled into a bloody mess, he is still able to move and, by a stroke of luck, lands in the truck's cargo bed. As the pickup drives away, Mort is carried off to a new location. The next day, a salesman passes by the house. As he knocks on the door, a bloody hand suddenly reaches out from inside. Before the salesman can react, he is gutted. His attacker is Mort's wife, who is now fully zombified. As she passes the salesman, her blood drips into his mouth, infecting him with the virus as well. The pickup truck that carried Mort away is now parked in front of a convenience store. The owner, Smokey, is a heavy smoker who sits at her counter chain smoking, indifferent to whether customers are shoplifting or just using the restroom. The people using the restroom are a couple, Chloe and Kevin. Chloe has a bad habit. She doesn't flush and leaves her used tampon in the toilet bowl. When Mort stumbles into the same restroom and vomits bloody water, the scent of the tampon catches his attention. What follows is too graphic to describe, but in his quest to find the source of the scent, Mort investigates the tampon and begins to track Chloe. Just then, another group arrives at the store. Jane, her best friend Patty, Patty's boyfriend, Fatty, and Lady Bro. It's a lot of names, but don't worry, there won't be many left soon. Patty also borrows the key to the restroom. The bathroom is covered in blood, and despite being careful, Patty accidentally sits on the blood-stained toilet seat, getting infected. Unaware of the virus, she later starts vomiting in the car, assuming she just has food poisoning. To help Patty feel better, the group of 5 pulls over to rest. Unbeknownst to them, Mort is hiding in the nearby bushes, having tracked Chloe to this same spot where she had stopped earlier. When Mort spots Jane and Patty from his hiding place, his perverted mind kicks in, and he starts making lewd gestures at them. Meanwhile, back at the convenience store, Smokey is preparing to close up. As she's locking the door, the now zombified salesman sneaks in and assaults her, wanting to have a Smokey baby. True to her nature, even in her final moments, the chain smoker manages to take a couple more drags from her cigarette. Later, both groups happen to arrive at the same motel. Jane's group can only afford 2 rooms, and since Patty's boyfriend wants to be alone with her, Fatty is left to sleep in the car. However, Patty isn't feeling well and rejects her boyfriend's hormone advances. Frustrated and rejected, he leaves the room and goes outside to take matters into his own hormone-let-go hands. Awkwardly, the motel manager catches him in the act. The manager advises him to keep it in his smelly pants, even if it's difficult. The boyfriend claims he was just relieving himself, not doing what the motel manager thinks. After the manager leaves, however, he continues his wet massage until he passes out from overexcitement. Things are much worse for Fatty. Cold and lonely in the car, he feels completely ignored by his friends. Suddenly, Smokey appears. Now a zombie, but still Smokey, drawn to the motel by scent. Fatty screams in terror, scrambles into the motel, and locks the door behind him. Outside, Smokey simply lights a cigarette, showing no intention of breaking in. Behind Fatty, however, is the semi-zombified Patty. She invites him to get intimate. Although Fatty senses something is very wrong with her, he's had a terrible night. First, the motel manager mistook him for being gay, and then Patty's boyfriend forced him to sleep in the car. Seeing an opportunity to finally vent his pent-up frustration, he goes with Patty to her room, and they hook up for a passionate hormone yoga session. Meanwhile, in another room, Chloe and Kevin have just finished being intimate for only 2 minutes. Kevin had accidentally seen Chloe's phone and discovered she was cheating on him. He decides to give her a chance to come clean, or else they would break up. Chloe naturally chooses to lie. Kevin decides that if she won't be honest, he won't be nice either. Chloe tries to make him stay, but he leaves her decisively. A condom wrapper is stuck to the back of his t-shirt. The motel manager spots it, kindly brushes it off him, and pretends to toss it towards a trash can, wanting to take it back for his own use later. Unfortunately, his aim is off, and it lands on the face of Patty's boyfriend, who is still passed out nearby. Just as Kevin leaves the room, Mort bursts in. He moves with incredible speed like riding a Tesla bike, and before Chloe can even understand what's happening, Mort has infected her with the virus. Back with Fatty, he has just finished with Patty when her breathing suddenly stops. When she opens her eyes again, they are bloodshot. She embraces Fatty, and her attacks become even more ferocious. For extra stimulation, Patty even starts gnawing on Fatty's greasy body. Under this brutal assault, Fatty is, of course, killed and sent to meet the fat Satan. Patty's boyfriend, still oblivious, wakes up from his stupor, and his first thought is to get back to his wet massage. Before he can pass out again, he is interrupted by the motel manager, who is carrying a dripping trash bag. The liquid dripping from the bag is actually blood, but the boyfriend, lacking any detective skills, doesn't notice and returns to his room at the motel manager's urging. The main light in the room is broken. He vaguely sees a pale, fleshy body lying on the bed and assumes it's Patty, undressed and waiting for him. No longer holding back, he pounces and begins his session. Afterwards, he realizes something is terribly wrong. He's stuck inside and can't pull out no matter how hard he tries. He turns on the bedside lamp to see what's going on, only to make a horrifying discovery. The person beneath him is Fatty. The boyfriend's world instantly shatters. To make matters worse, Smokey finds her way to their room. Even as a zombie, her nicotine addiction is as strong as ever. Instead of attacking the two men for a smoky baby, she seems more interested in blowing secondhand smoke at them. Fortunately, the smoke isn't very harmful, and the boyfriend has enough strength left to use a lamp to electrocute Smokey. Jane and Lady Bro haven't had such an eventful night yet. They've been arguing in their room ever since they arrived because Lady Bro is not only a drug dealer but also a lying braggart. Fed up, Jane goes outside for some air, where she runs into Kevin, who is also wandering around. In the cold, dark night, the lonely man and woman feel an undeniable spark. Before they can get to know each other better, Jane hears a scream from Patty. She follows the sound and finds Patty covered in blood, her face deathly pale, looking like a corpse. Patty has fully turned into a zombie and immediately attacks Jane and Kevin. Kevin has a handgun in his car for self-defense and decisively shoots Patty, who falls to the ground. However, the gunshot attracts Mort. Drawn by Chloe's scent still on Kevin, Mort tries to force himself on him. Just as Kevin is about to be violated, Jane quickly shoots Mort and then calls the police. Shaken, the two decide to get out of there. But just as Kevin is looking for his car keys, the supposedly dead Mort and Patty get back up. One sets its sights on Kevin, the other on Jane. While grappling with Mort, Kevin accidentally kicks him in the groin. Mort immediately doubles over, howling in pain, seemingly in more agony than when he was shot. From this, Kevin deduces that the zombie's weak spot is the groin and quickly tells Jane. Unfortunately, Jane isn't strong enough. Not only does Patty not feel any pain, but she even tries to steal Jane's shoe. On top of that, bullets have no effect on Patty, making her seemingly invincible. The two realize their only option is to hide in a room to escape the danger. Soon after, a police officer arrives at the motel. Seeing nothing unusual outside, he assumes the area is safe, unaware that Mort's wife is lurking in the darkness. Instead of leaving, the officer knocks on the door of Patty's boyfriend's room. Still stuck to Fatty, the boyfriend hears the knock and quickly covers Smokey's body with a sheet and himself and Fatty with a blanket. Unaware of the zombie situation, he tries to mislead the officer by talking about being gay. The officer gets no useful information. Just then, Jane, Kevin, and Lady Bro emerge from their room and run right into the officer. Seeing Kevin with a gun, the officer orders them to put their hands up and stand aside while he reports to his superior. This infuriates Jane. With things getting critical, she can't believe he isn't calling for backup to exterminate the zombies. As she's angrily berating the officer for his incompetence, Mort appears. Although Mort doesn't have a gun, the radioactive toxins in his body are a deadly weapon. Before the officer can react, Mort sprays him with a corrosive fluid, killing him instantly. The next to die is Patty's boyfriend. After a long slumber, Fatty has also successfully turned into a zombie, but a fat one. He wants to go outside for some action, but the boyfriend, not wanting to be torn apart, clings desperately to the doorframe. However, the weight difference between them is too great. As Fatty pulls violently, the boyfriend's body is ripped in half, allowing him to exit the room in two pieces. Jane's group also loses a member. While Mort was dealing with the officer, they tried to escape, but were ambushed by Mort's wife. Lady Bro is killed by her corrosive attack. Kevin tells Jane to run while he stays behind to hold them off. But Jane doesn't get far either. She runs into the zombified salesman, whose mind is also filled with perverted thoughts. He immediately tries to assault her for a baby. Luckily, the motel manager appears with a griddle. Jane grabs it and smacks the salesman in the groin, taking him out for good. But the motel manager is no hero. He seizes the opportunity to knock Jane unconscious and drag her sexy body away. Back with Kevin, facing the two powerful enemies of Mort and his wife, he decides that running is the best option. He also wants to check on Chloe back in the room. When he opens the door, he finds Chloe is already a corpse, and Patty is hiding behind the door. Based on his earlier experience, Kevin assumed that Patty, unlike Mort, had a weak spot in her head and could be killed with a headshot. But after he stomps her head to a pulp, her body keeps moving. A tentacle shoots out from her groin, wraps around Kevin's neck, and pulls him closer. Kevin quickly grabs his gun to defend himself. With a single shot, Patty is finally finished. As the fully transformed Chloe crawls toward him, Kevin dispatches her in a similar fashion. But before he can even catch his breath, he is knocked out by the motel manager who is hiding in the shadows. When Kevin wakes up again, he and Jane are tied up. It turns out the motel manager and his family are cannibals, and many of their motel guests have ended up on their dinner table. Kevin and Jane are clearly next. But just as the motel manager is about to start the feast, Mort bursts in and violently kills him. In the chaos, Jane breaks free and gets Kevin's gun. Following Kevin's instructions, Jane successfully takes out Mort. The two then make it to the police car, but just as they start the engine, the still-active Fatty and Mort's wife find them. Fatty's target is Kevin. Overpowered by Fatty's sheer size, Kevin is pinned down. Unexpectedly, a tire iron falls next to him. Kevin quickly grabs it and finishes Fatty. Jane is even more ruthless, taking out Mort's wife with her bare hands. At this point, Kevin and Jane are the only two people left alive at the motel. They make it to sunrise, and their relationship is about to move to the next level. But then, as expected, the unexpected happens. As they kiss, Kevin remembers that Patty bit him the previous night. The virus passes from him to Jane. Fearing she will attack Kevin after she turns, Jane walks away while she still has her sanity. Unfortunately, she's not watching where she's going and stops in the middle of the road where she is hit by a speeding pickup truck and mangled, the very same truck that hit Mort at the beginning of the story. The two men driving the pickup, seeing Jane turn into a zombie, expertly put her out of her misery. It turns out they came from the South, which is now overrun with zombies. Having survived countless zombie attacks, they know how to deal with them easily. They advise Kevin to team up with them and head north. However, Kevin believes that since he hasn't turned yet, he must be immune to the virus. He declares that he should stay in the South and be a savior. In his moment of heroic proclamation, he too is standing in the middle of the road and is hit and killed by another truck. And that's where the movie ends. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.